business leader and best-selling author. She has worked for some of the fastest-growing startups and leading global companies like BCG and Amazon. And she has been with Chainlink Labs for almost 5 years, but first as a CMO and now as a Chief Ecosystem Growth Officer. So Adelyn, first thank you for joining us today. I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with Chainlink, but maybe you could briefly introduce what is the role of labs in decentralized ecosystem of Chainlink.
Yeah, so first, thank you for having me here. I'm honored to come join you. I've been a big fan of this old Friends reunion for a very long time. And as you mentioned, I too have been in the ecosystem, especially at Chainlink, almost a lifetime, I guess, in the crypto times. But within the Chainlink ecosystem, Chainlink Labs, we help provide a lot of the technology, the building of the Chainlink ecosystem. You can think of us kind of like the protocol labs equivalent, or the labs team for Chainlink.
Right. And over the past few years, you obviously accumulated a lot of experience, like leading Chainlink growth through different stages of product cycle, starting at incubation, like introductory stage, and now being like one of the leading Web3 projects. I'm pretty sure that in the audience you also have some early stage startups that might be facing some of the early challenges as you'd had like maybe 4 years ago. So can you just take us through this experience of leading Chainlink growth from early stage to now being one of the most well-known Web3 projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I joined Chainlink, we were fewer than 10 people. I was one of the first business hires at Chainlink, and very honored and proud to see, how far we've come to securing so much of the overall Web3 ecosystem. We have projects in DeFi and NFTs and gaming and you name it industry. But I guess in the early days, it was, I would say when I first joined, this space was even more Wild West than it is today. My background, I have been kind of creating, type of innovative solutions, but then thinking, how can we put a Web3 spin on this? And so that ranged everything on the marketing side from, hey, because we have these tokens here, right? There's a community that Web2 doesn't have. So really first grew out
You were one of the first employees at Chainlink. Now what is how many employees at Chainlink Labs in total?
Yeah, in Chainlink Labs we're in the hundreds because, and all around the world, so I would say, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And in the marketing team that is about?
I would say we have a bunch of folks around the world helping,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think only over the past 2 years there are hundreds of projects also built on top of the Chainlink infrastructure, mostly in DeFi, but in also some other verticals. In DeFi, you also got some of the leading projects like Synthetics and Aave to build on top of Chainlink. How is Chainlink leveraging its current position to the benefit of the broader Chainlink ecosystem?
Yeah, and so we were very honored to have been with some of the leading DeFi projects in the very, very early days when they were fewer than 10 people. For example, we were hand in hand working with the Aave team to set up their very first price feeds, and which helped work with them to accelerate their go-to-market. So their engineers didn't have to work on setting up oracles, and they could instead focus on creating innovative things such as flash loans and things that Aave really helped pioneer because they freed up their engineering time to do that. And so we saw, in the early days, and also the Chainlink community really, really embrace these DeFi projects, and were some of the first community members of Synthetics and also in Aave and countless others. And so through that experience, we decided, hey, recently, why don't we also help more projects continue with this amazing, Chainlink helped inspire growth. And so we launched last month our new build program. It's an ecosystem, kind of like an ecosystem program that helps really, pre-seed, seed stage projects, and give them additional support, whether it's from making them introductions to VCs, to helping them set up their first price feeds, to helping them think through, their technical roadmap and their infrastructure, right? And so if you guys are interested in that, you should check it out. It's called the Build program within Chainlink, and we're working with these to help them expand.
Yeah, actually, recently invested in two of the projects coming outside of Chainlink build program, Space and Time, which is building a decentralized data warehouse, and ChainML, which is building a decentralized computation network. And for those that are interested, what are actually criteria that you're looking at when you decide whether to accept certain project into the program or not?
Yeah, for us, because it's part of Chainlink, again, there is a use case. Think of that as is there a use case for that project to use Chainlink? And then also Chainlink, though, we have expanded our variety of products. So instead of just the initial core price feeds and data feeds that a lot of DeFi projects are using, we have automation, we have our proof of reserves, our randomness through our VRF function, and our soon-to-come cross-chain protocol. And so I would say any startup that has any use of those, which I would say is probably the vast majority of projects in the space, I would say just give us a look and check it out.
Yeah, makes sense. And over also the past few years, not only DeFi was built on top of Chainlink infrastructure, but also it seems that Chainlink managed to find its important spot in areas such as NFTs, social gaming, where it's providing different services. Some of them you already mentioned, right? You obviously have a front row experience, where you also get to see a lot of applicants to the build program. What are you most excited about, or where do you feel maybe the Chainlink wants to get more exposure or be more aggressive about certain vertical?
I would say we have the core functions really easy to integrate the DeFi project. So yes, hit us up if you're building a DeFi application. But I think other ones are dynamic MTs. I'm really excited about how different projects could use more both on-chain and off-chain data to make their NFTs actually real and useful. And especially as you think about more of the tokenization of real-world assets, right? Using more dynamic NFTs to showcase, the changing of these NFTs would be really interesting. And then infrastructure, I think in every bear market, everybody's excited about the core building blocks. I think Space and Time and ChainML, as you mentioned, they're both in more or less infrastructure projects as well that will really help pave the way for the next boom cycle that we're waiting for.
Right, we obviously entered bear market recently, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of infrastructure projects being built. It seems to me personally that it's very hard with the existing set of resources to build something very new in DeFi space or in the existing vertical. So I do believe that for the next bull market we would have to wait maybe for some of these primitives to mature in order to be able to power next generation applications. How long do you think it would take for some of these primitives to mature enough to power this, or do you even think that we would experience again like the pace of innovation as like what we have experienced like during the DeFi summer in 2020?
I think the good thing we are doing is focusing on these primitives, right? When I joined the space, I mean, it was a bear market as well. We've been through these booms and busts. And I would say in the bear market, like, I think with these core infrastructure products and being built will enable the next generation of Web3 projects to come out faster and better. Because if you think about it, like, Chainlink won't take full credit for it, but I do think that we were a key part in helping usher in DeFi summer. I mean, without Chainlink, without Oracle feeds, these projects, would have had to spend months and months building their own Oracle infrastructure, and instead that cut out so much engineering time and allowed DeFi summer to happen. And I think some of the infrastructure products that are being built now are going to be, again, those building blocks for the next set, whether it's insurance or tokenization or whatever we have it that we're going to imagine, right, that will come into this Web3 space. I think it'll make it so much faster, and that'll make the boom even bigger. And also, if you think about it, too, there's so many more people that have come into the space in the last few years. I mean, I can personally count, like, dozens and dozens of friends from the Web2 space who finally now, turned the light and now believe and are still here, despite the market ups and downs. And so with the more people and more brain power, technologically and on the business side of things, I really think that there's so much more for us to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the potential new primitives, like some of them we already discussed in this summit, like ZK technology, snag proofs in general, like a lot about data being available. So one of the projects leveraging Chainlink infrastructure space and time, they're literally the intersection of the three. They're like trying to enable trustless communication of on-chain data with smart contracts, which is not possible at the moment. If you read like the Graph API, like sometimes you would get like errors in your data, so it's very hard for like smart contracts to integrate with this type of data. And once like this is possible, I believe like we can see like much more advanced like use cases in DeFi, potentially also some transparent like under collateralized like lending and borrowing to avoid like some dramatic situations that have occurred like over the past few months. But in general, like now during the bear market, it seems like the skeptics are again louder and louder.
They always are.
Maybe the bullish people are more quiet, so we just hear the skeptics. And it seems that most of the critiques are pointing out like the isolation of blockchain economy from the real economy, that most of the dApps built on blockchain are just providing extra tools for easier speculation on crypto assets. To some extent, like Chainlink is a bridge between blockchain and real world, because you're basically connecting and bringing a lot of data from real economy to on-chain economy, and you facilitate some of the novel use cases. What is your general take on like how could smart contracts, blockchains, and oracles in general like bring more fairness like into the like make impact for everybody to feel like rather in real economy or blockchain economy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the exciting things that we just saw a couple of weeks ago, right, a house was first made into an NFT in South Carolina. So tokenization of real assets, I think we've been talking about it for a long time, but I feel like we're starting to get closer and closer to getting the primitives, and the infrastructure around to do that. Other things I do feel like it'd be more exciting, a lot of interest in the gaming space these days. I feel like seeing how making those games and putting them much more on chain, and not just the play to earns, but fundamentally Web2 studios and gaming using that and using their experiences to bring that to Web3, and then I guess with Chainlink in there too for automation of those and collectibles and making more fair and across different gaming ecosystems and allowing and facilitating that.
I see. So mostly gaming projects like are utilizing Chainlink services for automation of certain like smart contract calls, or
yeah, they use it for automation. They use randomness to make sure that the collections that they're giving to players are actually distributed fairly. So we see a lot of those different use cases.
I see. How how does like Chainlink base with the regulatory pressure in general? Like there are also many. We also invest in one project called Liquidity. They're like they're like over collateralized stablecoin. I think they're at the moment the most decentralized one. But some skeptics were saying because they're utilizing Chainlink Oracle and this is such a sensitive topic, like a very sensitive vertical, that potentially if Chainlink faces regulatory pressure, that this could maybe reflect. What is your like general like approach to like this challenge of potential regulators coming after like some of these like use cases built on top of like Chainlink infrastructure?
Yeah, I think, again, it's in this space, right, it's a very sensitive and hot topic. I think for us, we really just want to focus on building the building blocks for users and enable them to build the products that they can. I
see. And for onboarding the users, what do you feel are some of the biggest challenges, like in general to the like Ethereum ecosystem, or like to some of the many applications built on top of like a Chainlink ecosystem?
Users, you mean for the
application user, yeah.
Yeah, I still think at the end of the day it's usability. Ask a normal person, right, to open up a wallet, to connect. I mean, it's just steps and steps. I mean, I think it's cool that Solana is also thinking about creating a whole mobile thing, right, and allowing that as a way, a gateway for easier access for users to come into this ecosystem. At the end of the day, I think, as the previous panel said, people don't care about what cloud you're on or what you're doing. They just want an easy-to-use experience, and until we can provide that, I think that's one of the challenges. The good thing is I'm talking to a lot of different VCs in the space right now. Of course, they're focused on infrastructure, but a lot of others are now thinking, like, how do we keep on improving the usability of these applications that we're doing?
Makes sense. Yeah, like just one simple data that showcases how far away they are still from just like a centralized crypto company. Like for example, Coinbase, I believe they have like more than 100 million like registered users. There were only like about 5 million addresses that ever interacted with Uniswap. But even though like Uniswap is still managing to generate like almost similar volume to Coinbase, but not to get too deep over there. There was a lot of talk about account abstraction also today, but at DevCon and other events, so that's something that the community is generally very excited and should improve UX several times. But yeah, in general, how can people reach out? How can they learn a bit more about Chainlink and get integrated into community and contribute?
Yeah, one, follow us on Twitter, follow Chainlink, follow me, or if you're around here, feel free to Miranda to say hello. I'm happy to connect to the right person, right teams, whatever could be helpful.
Yeah, so Adelyn will stay around, I believe, but we are going to close the morning session with this talk. Thank you, Adelyn, again for taking the time to join this event and share your insights. We will continue the session, afternoon session at 2 p.m. And yeah, I'll see you then. I also wanted to thank all of the RG team members that are working tirelessly behind the scenes. You might not see them on the stage, but they're working very hard on making this event happen. So just wanted to mention them as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.